It's not a game, it's a rich thing.
And welcome back to The Busy Fan. So we didn't get an episode out yesterday, so we're going to cover some of the things that happened this weekend. As far as like college football goes, there wasn't like a ton of exciting news. A lot of like the top teams lost. Like Florida lost. Texas lost. They were like 22. They lost to Alabama in the Red River rivalry. So there's like, some exciting stuff. But just there's so much uncertainty in college football right now. And two of the Power 5 conferences aren't even playing yet. So we don't know what the rankings mean right now. We don't know if they're even close to being legit or what. So the big game of the week was Clemson-Miami. So just real fast, Clemson killed Miami. But Miami's looked really good this year too. So that's, Clemson's everyone's favorite. So no surprise there. Although I will say, beating Miami by as much as they did made Clemson look that much better because Miami has Houston's old quarterback, Derek King, who was a huge prospect coming out. He's a baller. He sat out at Houston. So the NCAA rules right now, they let you play 4 games. If you play in 4 games, you can still redshirt that year, right? Once you play your 5th game, you can't redshirt anymore. So last year for Houston, he played 4 games and they sucked. They were like, well, our team is terrible. And they're like, but this guy, Derek King, is money and we want him for our future. So let's just redshirt him. So they just sat him just because they knew their team was bad. Imagine being a senior on that team and the coaching staff and everyone is like, hey, we don't think you guys are good enough. We're going to save our talented players for later. Whatever. So that happened, and then he left, and now he's at Miami, so even bigger, like, fist to the face, I guess. And so Miami's looked pretty good, but Clemson just, destroyed them completely. So that was like the big game that we were all waiting for. There's some other exciting stuff, but like I said, we don't know what any of the rankings mean, so nothing like too pressing to talk about or anything like that. So let's go straight to the NBA championship, right? The Lakers are the NBA champions. Huge news, great for them. I think the bubble environment was so crazy, something like people have never been in anything like that before. So congrats to the Lakers. In the last game, like before that, in game 5, the Heat showed up and they were just like, people were saying before the game, they're going to have to like drag Jimmy Butler off the court. Like the Heat are giving it everything and all this stuff. And they really did. Like they gave it their all. Jimmy had like a 35-point triple-double. LeBron also had like 40 points in that game, right? So huge going back and forth and everything. But the Heat won that game. And they literally did give everything in that game because game 6 they showed up and they had absolutely nothing. Now I don't want to take anything away from the Heat, but throughout the game the announcers were talking about, or not the Heat, the Lakers. I don't want to take anything away from the Lakers, but throughout the game the announcers were talking about this great defense that the Lakers were playing, and they were. Like Anthony Davis played really good defensively, but it was much more than that. Like Tyler Hero missed like a 3-foot shot, like airballed a 3-foot shot. With little to no defense on him. Like the Heat were just absolutely exhausted. Nobody could get anything going. And the Lakers did not play bad defense. They definitely played good defense. But the Heat it wouldn't have mattered, is what I'm trying to say. The Lakers were up by like 30 points for most of this game. So they absolutely destroyed. So if they had played bad defense, they probably would have been up by 10 for most of the game. So but congrats to the Lakers. Again, like I said, this bubble was so weird, so unique. I think it's ridiculous if anyone's talking about putting an asterisk on this season because I think this is like one of the most challenging. Like coming into this, everyone was talking about how the Clippers are coming into this year, not into the bubble. Coming into the year, a lot of people were talking about how the Clippers are going to win the championship because they are so deep, right? They have a great bench, they have all these things, and the Lakers are not deep enough. Then we go to the bubble. Avery Bradley, one of the Lakers starters, doesn't play. So now they're even shallower, right? They have less of a bench to go to. So it's kind of like, okay, well, now what? Like if the Clippers were favored before, then then the Lakers have to be like way down the totem pole now. But they really showed up. Rajon Rondo, Dwight Howard, Alex Caruso, people just stepped up and played way better throughout the bubble and throughout the playoffs than they had during the regular season before. So I think big congratulations to the Lakers. I don't think anybody should put anything against them for this win. Like no asterisk for the bubble play. I think it was crazy hard, and congrats to the Lakers on winning. But now let's go to the NFL. I'm going to cover a couple big games, but more importantly, there were some big storylines that happened this week. So we'll start with Sunday night action. The Raiders beat the Chiefs. A lot of people looked at the Chiefs this season and were like, hey, maybe they can go undefeated, right? They look so good. However, that was before the season. Now that the season's been going on, the Patriots played them pretty good. The Chargers defense really set this, hey, this is how to play Patrick Mahomes, right? And I think Patrick Mahomes will adapt. I don't think he's been figured out. I don't think he can be figured out because he just adapts so often and changes the way he plays. But the Raiders did beat the Chiefs. They beat them 40-32, and I guess really that's the way to beat them is score 40 points, right? It won't work every time, but you're gonna have to put up a lot of points because you know that their offense is so explosive. So big Henry Ruggs was a huge part in this. Explosive receiver from Alabama really went off for him. Moving on, more big games. The Seahawks-Vikings was super exciting at the end there. Vikings actually dominated most of the game, and then the Seahawks came back. The Vikings went for it on 4th and 1 in field goal range, right? So they were up by 5. If they would have kicked a field goal, they would have been up by 8 with 2 minutes left. If they got the first down, then they can basically seal the game. So they decided to go for it. They were stopped, and then Russell Wilson got the ball, was able to go back down and win the game for him. There's a lot of debate about that call. I think, and I thought before it happened, that it was the wrong call because on the drive before, the Vikings went for it on 4th and 1, and Kirk Cousins got stopped at the line, and then one of his offensive linemen pushed him forward, and so he barely got it. So that made me really nervous, and I was like, no, you barely got this last time. Don't press your luck and try again. Just kick the 3 points and get up by 8. But Mike Zimmer chose not to, and they lost. A lot of people will go back and forth on whether it was good or not. I definitely disagree with it. Also, now the storylines, right? We have the comeback story of the year and hopefully the injury of the year. Hopefully there's nothing worse than this because this is pretty brutal. But we'll start with that injury. The Cowboys beat the Giants 37-34, but nobody really cares because Dak Prescott suffered a horrible injury. It was a compound fracture in his ankle / dislocation. A compound fracture, I believe that's what Kevin Ware had, the Louisville basketball player. But with him, you could see it because the bone broke skin. This one, you could just see, the bone didn't break the skin, but you could see his foot was twisted the wrong way, his ankle was popped out. Very brutal for Dak Prescott, who'd been playing great. The Cowboys have not been good this year, but Dak's been doing everything and balling out completely. So prayers up for Dak. He had surgery yesterday, so hopefully he'll recover and be able to come back, just like Alex Smith did. Kyle Allen went down with the Redskins, so Alex Smith came in after. If you haven't seen the documentary and you can handle disgusting things, you should watch the Alex Smith documentary. He almost lost his life due to the leg injury, but he made his comeback. They lost, and he didn't do great, but he played, right? He made it back. So awesome comeback story for them. Big Alex Smith fan, so very happy to see something like that. And now let's go to the MLB real fast. The ALCS and NLCS are going on. Tampa Bay is leading the Houston Astros 2-0 in that series right now. They won again today, so now they're up 2-0. And the Dodgers lost to the Braves today 1-0. And that one was big because it was 1-1 in the top of the ninth. And the Astros just freaking took their pitcher's yard again and again and again. And so there was 1-1 going into the ninth, and then they scored 4 runs, and they ended up winning 5-1. So that's what's going on. This was a little long, so I'm just going to stop right there. But thanks for being a busy fan.